Okay, so we're back again, continuing Make It or Break It season 2. We're just gonna jump right in because last video so long. I'm gonna try to talk a little faster or something, but I'm here in my ski outfit because Boulder they have skiing. I don't know. It's cold outside today, so this is what you're getting. Okay, so we left off last video at the end of episode 10 of season 2 of Make It or Break It. And we left off with Kaylee falling off the beam at World Trials, Emily getting arrested because she missed her hearing, Lauren upset about finally finding out about her mom, Payson made it onto the world team. So, everybody's kind of at different levels. Everyone's kind of going through their own stuff. And these are the characters that we left off with last video. I think we can remove Marty. I don't think he shows up anymore. So if you haven't seen part 1 of season 2, go and watch that. It's a little long. I'm sorry. Just how it happened. Anyways, this is part 2, and we're gonna start back off with the second half of season 2. And that begins with episode 11. Oh, also another trigger warning for eating disorders for this video as well. So this episode opens with the girls. The girls at the Rock, and it's like all dark and mysterious, and some of the boys are there, and they're vampires. And Carter bites Lauren, and Payson gets bit, and Austin shows up and tells Kaylee that she can trust him, and Emily's like all over him at that point too. But then Sasha shows up and says, Kaylee, get in, come with me. And then Kaylee ends up biting him. So it's actually a dream that Kaylee had, and is telling it to the people in her group therapy because she is now at a rehab place for eating disorders. So she's telling her fellow rehab patients, and a therapist is there about this dream, and they kind of go into trying to pick it apart, and the therapist is like, and what does that mean? And Kaylee's like, I don't know. She's like very dismissive of the whole thing and not into it at all, you can tell. Back at the Rock, and out of dreamland now, the 3 girls show up, minus Kaylee, of course, because she's at rehab. And Sasha is not there because, remember, he left at the end of episode 10. And we find out that they're going to be going to an exhibition that weekend to Denver, which, remember, is Kelly Parker's gymnastics gym. And we also find out that Lauren has been staying with Summer because she's still mad at her dad for lying to her about her mom. And Steve is there at the Rock also, and he's trying to find the girls a new coach. Summer and Kim, because they're the managers at the Rock, they ask Steve if he had anything to do with the photo being leaked to Ellen Beals, and he says no, and that if he ever finds out who did, they'll be out of that gym. Which is funny because it's his daughter, and he eventually does find out, and that's not what happens. But we'll get there. So they show Kaylee again back at rehab, and she's being very resistant and like sassy to everyone there. But there's a girl there who is Maeve, and Maeve is actually Kaylee's roommate at rehab. They're at dinner, and Maeve's like, the best thing I ever did was fully commit to rehab and admit that I belong there. And she kind of like incites Kaylee to give in a little bit to the program. And then at practice, Austin asks Emily about Kaylee because he hasn't gone and see her. And Emily says that the girls are gonna go see her at rehab the next day because I guess the facility is in Denver, and that's where they're going to be for the exhibition. So then they are having a meeting with Emily's probation officer. She has one of those now. Kim, Summer, Chloe, and Marcus, who is a rep from the NGO, who he kind of is on like Ellen Beale's level as far as like a hierarchy. He's probably a little lower than Ellen, I'm not sure, but he's there to just kind of oversee the girls and Emily and, you know, her legal issues and things like that. I like Marcus. He's a little iffy towards the end of the season for a second, but I think he has a good heart. So in this meeting, they say that she is actually allowed to go to the exhibition if she wears an ankle monitoring device, because before this she's been only going to gym and home, but since, you know, Summer and Kim and all of them will be there, they agree that she can go. And she walks out of the office wearing the ankle monitor, and everyone's like very gagged, like, oh my god. So they arrive at the exhibition, and of course Kelly Parker is there to greet them with all of her nasty remarks. She wasn't at the World Trials because of an ankle injury, but she says she's gonna be either taking Emily or Kaylee's spot on the World's team. We then see Austin and Max. We meet Max, who is Austin's friend. That is how he is introduced. Immediately, Lauren is all over that. She's like, yum. But Max has all eyes for Miss Payson. Like cannot stop staring at her. And she kind of notices, and she's like, is there something on my face? And he tells her that no, her face is just perfect for catching the light, because he's a photographer apparently. And Payson's like, oh. And Lauren's like, they then show Lauren, Emily, and Payson visiting Kaylee at rehab. But like while they're walking in, before they see Kaylee, Lauren is like dropping hints that she thinks Kaylee might have been the one to send the photo of Sasha and Payson to Ellen Beals, because she felt trapped because Sasha was onto her and her anorexia. And the girls are like, what? They have a really short and sweet visit with Kaylee. I mean, nothing really goes down there, but she's like very much like, I'm fine. And Lauren makes some jokes about Payson and her crush with Sasha, which are actually kind of funny. One of them she says is, sorry, we don't all have crushes on people with senior citizen discounts, which is pretty good, honestly. So that night there's a party for all the gymnasts and everyone, and Max is there, and they find out that he's also a gymnast as well, and he's deciding what gym he wants to be a part of. So, you know, either the Rock or the Denver gym. Kelly's like, yeah, you gotta come to Denver. And the girls are like, y'all's men's team is trash. And they're like, actually, we have a new ring specialist. She brings out Carter. So Carter has joined the Denver gym, and all the girls, especially Lauren, are shook. They're like, Carter? So after that, Lauren brings Max out onto the dance floor, and Kelly brings out Carter, and they're like grinding and like trying to have like a who can be sexier competition, I guess, to convince Max to come to whichever gym. And Carter's like, the girls at the Rock are nice, but the women in Denver, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, Carter, you were all over two of those women in Boulder, so whatever. But they were putting in the work. So, and Max is like, I don't know, the girls at the Rock seem pretty good to me, because Lauren is doing the most as usual. Also at the party, Austin and Emily have a conversation about Emily being scared and how everything she's worked for is going to disappear, and she says she's angry at herself and at her mom, and she can't help but think that if her mother was just a better mother and better at everything, then maybe they wouldn't be living so hand to mouth. And Austin is just like not being sympathetic at all to her. And he says, why didn't you just call an ambulance? For about when she stole the meds because Brian was sick, which is true. But also she's a teenager and was panicking, and I doubt they have insurance, I'm gonna be honest. Although she did say that the insurance covered the medicine, so I'm sure they have something. But yeah, while the girls are in Denver, Marcus, the NGO rep, shows up at the Kmetko's house. He's there to do like a random check-in, and Emily's family, I guess, just with everything that's happened. But he's being quite judgy about their living situation, especially when he notices that Emily doesn't even have a room, because her bed is in her bedroom is the living room. And Chloe's like, well, she insisted that I have my own room, and blah blah blah. And Marcus is like, do you let your daughter insist on everything? Look-y, yeah. Chloe kind of goes off on him, and he's like, look, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to save your daughter's dream. Like, you need me. We both want the same thing for her. At the end of the day, like, they're on the same team, but I mean, he's a lot better than, like, I genuinely believe he wants the best for Emily. Let's go with that. Whereas Ellen Beals certainly did not. Also, we won't be hearing from Ellen Beals for a while. She's kind of hiding in a cave for like until pretty much the last episode, maybe the like second to last episode. But yeah, she ran away with her tail between her legs after Payson got on the team and Sasha came back, and all that. So then back at the party, Kelly Parker is being mean to Payson about the kiss. And she also lets it slip to Payson that Sasha is actually hiding out in Denver, and Payson's like, where? So she rushes off to find him, but her mom stops her and talks her down. Is like, look, we got other stuff to do while we're here. We can't be chasing Sasha. Max, since he's a photographer, he was like taking a picture of Payson, and then they have a little chat, and he pulls out his camera to show her some of the pictures he's taken of some other famous athlete, but he's like scrolling through the pictures, and they're all to get to whatever picture he's trying to show her, and they're all of Payson. And she's like, are you a stalker? But he says that he's been a fan of her since he saw her video online, and shows her the video that someone took of her doing her floor routine to petition onto the world team. And she, she's very flattered by that because she loves a man who appreciates good gymnastics. And then we see Kim showing up at a boxing gym, and she sees Sasha in the boxing ring with some man and getting his face pummeled. And they talk, and he says he's going back to Romania, and he's just there until his visa gets worked out. And she's like, how can you leave without saying goodbye? Like, all the girls are heartbroken, and I mean, there's summer, like, you had friends here too. And he says he's heartbroken too, but because he gave those girls everything, and he just ended up hurting them, so he feels like he's only hurting them rather than helping them at this point, so he needs to leave. So the next day is the exhibition, and it's like they're performing outside, and it's like girls and boys, and it's not like they're all going to do their apparatuses and routines. They're all just kind of doing one big routine together. It's kind of giving cheer competition vibes a little bit. But Austin brought leg warmers for them all to wear so that Emily wouldn't be the only one wearing sweatpants to, cover her ankle monitor. So they all put those on, and they're going, and they're having a good time and doing all their tricks. But Emily does a handstand for a while, and her leg warmer slips and shows the ankle monitor, and music, record scratch, music stops. Everyone's looking around like, oh. And then so she runs off, and everyone's kind of just like whispering and in shock. And to distract everyone and, get the gaze off of Emily, Max, who was taking pictures, jumps in and joins them and does some cool tricks and stuff. So I guess he's made his decision on which gym he's gonna want to join. And afterwards, Emily takes the microphone from the announcer, which I hate in TV shows and movies when people do this stuff. It's so cringe. I get such bad secondhand embarrassment. It's crazy. But she like tells her arrest story to everybody there and says she wants to publicly acknowledge that she made a mistake, that herself, her club, the team, and that The Rock is a fantastic club and she disgraced it, and that Sasha is a fantastic coach and she disgraced him, and she disgraced her mother, and that her mom does her best. So I guess, whatever, even though Austin was kind of harsh, I guess his words did have some weight to them. And everyone ends up clapping for her, so I guess it worked out. But to me it was just, awkward moment. And then Austin goes to visit Kaylee at rehab, and it's kind of awkward. Like he you can tell he like doesn't want to be there. But she asks him if he was serious when he said he was falling for her, and he said he was serious. And she says, well, what if I said I was falling for you too? And he's like, I would say you should put it out of your mind for now, because you can't date anyone while you're recovering, and you really need to focus on the program and don't need someone like me to distract you from your recovery. And which is a valid point, he's right. But Kaylee does not like that, and she kind of accuses him of being a player who likes to chase, and once he has the girl reeled in, he wants to just throw her back and blah blah blah. And he's like, okay. And then Emily comes home from the exhibition and sees that her mom switched their rooms, so she no longer has to sleep in the living room, and now her mother will be out there. And Lauren finally goes home to her dad after talking to... She got some advice from Emily, I think, about forgiving a parent. And Emily's like, yeah, well, you and me, we've only got one parent, so you gotta get over it at some point, or at least maybe not forgive them, but, work towards that, because they're all we've got, basically. And Kaylee, back at rehab, is talking to Maeve, her roommate, and we find out that Maeve is actually a model, and that she has actually been fake working the program, and tells Kaylee that she needs to give in to the program, like act like she's actually doing it, so that she can get out and get back to training, because Maeve's like, yeah, I've done this like 3 times. Okay, girl. She offers to help her to get her out by coaching her on saying all the right things to, the therapists and her parents and whatnot. And that's the end of episode 11. I feel like not much happened in the episode. It's kind of giving filler episode a little bit, but I guess, a lot happened in the first half of the season, so it's kind of like a reset a little bit. So moving on to episode 12, it starts with Kaylee at rehab, and we find out that she's gained 3 pounds. Go girl. But she's complaining to Maeve afterwards they're having like art therapy outside, and they're like painting stuff, and like one of the art therapists comes around, like questions her about it, and she's very bad at being fake deep, and Maeve is like, girl, you gotta get your act together, come on. And then back at the Rock, Payson has kind of taken on the role as like a fill-in coach for the younger girls and everything, since Sasha's gone. But they find out that they are supposed to have a new coach starting today, who is Darby Conrad. That's Darby. Darby is a 2-time Olympian and silver medalist, and she's quite young. She's only 26. And Kim is quite skeptical because she doesn't think that the girls are going to listen to Darby, because she's kind of like more like a friend vibe than a coach. And she thinks that especially Payson is not going to respond well to this, not going to like respect her as head coach. And when Payson does find out that Darby's going to be their new coach, she is less than pleased. However, Lauren is so excited because apparently Darby was her big at gymnastics camp. I guess it's kind of like a sorority big and little kind of situation. So when Darby comes in to the gym, they're like squealing and so excited, and it's giving like preteen slumber party energy, and instead of Olympic athlete seriousness. So Darby comes in and basically throws all of the Rock rules and structure right out of the window. She says they can date and whatnot, and there's not going to be strict start time, just come in when you're ready, and things like that. And it's very much like she's trying to give the girls, the responsibility to decide that for themselves, and work on their own, if they have the commitment to do that for themselves, rather than do it just because they have to and those are the rules, but to do it for themselves. Which, okay, but also they're teenagers, like they're gonna skip off if you give them that opportunity. And we find out that Emily is no longer only on gym to home arrest. She's can go other places now, and with this lifted rules that Darby gives them, she feels a lot better because she's just more free now. And Lauren tries to appoint herself as team captain, and Payson's like, oh, what are you talking about? And so they're like arguing back and forth for a while, and Darby decides to have them compete for it the next day, and that the assistant coaches are going to judge, so she can be impartial, because I think Darby just doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings or make a decision that someone disagrees with. Damon is actually back in Boulder. Emily's like, thank God there's no rules. I can actually hang out with him now. I can finally see him without breaking any rules. And then Kaylee has a meeting with her therapist and her parents, and uses Maeve's advice to convince them to let her out, being finally admitting that she has a problem and whatnot, so she can get out of rehab. And the therapist tells her that she can go home, but she needs to stay in an outpatient program 6 days a week. And Kaylee's like, how am I supposed to train if I have to be in a therapist's office 6 days a week? And the therapist's like, yeah, no, you're not going to back. You're not training right now. You're not going back to training right now. And tells her that she needs to pursue outside interests and take a break from training, since that's what drove her to anorexia in the first place. And Kaylee is not happy about this, and neither is Alex, but her mom is all for it and suggests that Kaylee do music, because she's, a musician, and, she can follow in her footsteps and they can sing together and blah, blah, blah. And Kaylee's less than thrilled. Damon and Emily meet up to have a little date at the Spruce Juice. And we find out that Darby is staying at Lauren's family's house until she finds a place, and Lauren tells her that Payson isn't happy that she's there, and tells her that the rumors are true, that her and Sasha kissed, and that Payson will undermine her, and that she doesn't respect her, and blah, blah, blah. Like, just trying to pit Darby against Payson so that Lauren can be the one who's picked as team captain. And then we see Payson telling Kim that it's obvious that Steve bought Darby for Lauren to kind of, make up for the whole mother thing, probably. Payson's like, I'm not letting them take over my gym. Steve, again, has to convince Summer that he wasn't the one that leaked the video to Ellen Beals. Clearly there's no trust between these two. Like, Summer is very suspicious of Steve because he was the one who wanted to bring Sasha down. Who else would have done it, right? And Steve asks Summer to give him one more chance, and that he knows he'll be worthy of her this time. And she agrees and says that she will give him another chance if he promises to never lie to her again, no matter what. And he makes a promise with God as his witness, and says he wants to give Lauren the mom that he stole from her this summer. So this whole thing is giving very much they do not love each other. And they're solely doing this for Lauren. Like, he hired her best friend as a coach and got back together with Summer, all because he feels guilty for what he did with her mom. So, this can only end great. This can only end well, of course. So they call Lauren in and tell her that they got back together, and Lauren is so excited, and she's like, you're getting married, and they're like, whoa, slow down, we just got back together. And then Emily and Damon are back on their date, and they're stargazing and having a romantic moment, and I don't really care. Like, they have like no emotion for me. I'm not getting that buzzy feeling that I get with, like Austin and Kaylee. You know what I'm saying? And And when Emily gets home, she sees Marcus there, and she's like, oh. And he tells her that she is still on the national team if she can follow the rules of her new contract, which are basically the same rules she had before. She can't have a job, she has to keep an A grade average, and can't go anywhere but the rock and home, and basically have, no social life and no boyfriend and things like that. And it still has not been decided if she is going to Worlds. I guess it kind of depends on how she handles these rules. So it's kind of ironic. Darby comes in and lifts all of the rules, and then Marcus comes over and is like, actually, before you get too excited, that's actually not going to happen. The next day at practice, Darby is leading a meditation for all the girls. They're like in a circle on the mats. And Payson is very much like, this is ridiculous. Why are we doing this? And Emily tells Payson about her new contract and the dilemma. And Payson's like, I don't understand all the drama. You're just signing a piece of paper to follow all the rules, and most of us follow anyway, which, kind of valid. Then Payson and Lauren start their competition. And Kaylee's back at home, and Ronnie brings her into their home recording studio that they have in their house, and is talking about how they're going to turn it into an art studio for her. And Ronnie has a cardboard cutout of herself that is just in this recording studio that's from like the 80s, and I almost made that her picture that I printed out, but you can like barely tell it's her because it looks crazy. And Kaylee tries to convince her dad that she's fine and she can go back to training and that she doesn't need to do all of this. This whole situation is kind of like a catch-22 situation, because her dad's like, that's not what you told the therapist. And Kaylee gets really upset and like throws something at the wall, and it breaks her mom's like framed record and stuff. And her mom comes back in, and they're all kind of like, see, if you were fine, you wouldn't be doing this, right? In the competition for Lauren and Payson feels inclined to do a move on bars that she hasn't done since she broke her back, because she really wants to beat Lauren, and she actually ends up nailing it. And she also bluffs that she has this special move on the beam that she's going to do, because she hopes that it'll rattle Lauren or convince her to do something crazy that she'll end up messing up. And so Lauren's like, I'm going to do a round off tuck full mount on beam. And Darby's like, that's a dangerous move, Lauren. Do you have that move do you have that skill? And Payson tries to tell Lauren that she was bluffing and she doesn't actually have that move, because she doesn't want Lauren to do that mount and get hurt, Emily goes to Darby to tell her, she's like, tell her not to do it. And Darby says, how am I supposed to stop her? And Emily's like, you're her coach, just tell her not to do it. Darby does not do that, and Lauren does the move and ends up completing it successfully without hurting herself. But she does her routine, and then she falls off the beam while doing another move, and Payson's like, okay, I got this, maybe. And so Payson does like her classic, clean, simple, strong routine on the beam with like pretty much no mistakes. And Lauren's like, well, that was boring. But they finish, and the judges, who are the assistant coaches, announce that they tied. And Darby's like, well, I guess that leaves the decision up to me anyways. And so she decides to make them co-captains instead of choosing one, because, again, she doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And Lauren and Payson are, like, neither of them are happy. Later, Emily and Kaylee are at the Spruce Juice, and Emily is telling her, everything that happened that day at practice. And she also tells her about Damon and his music. And so Kaylee offers up her mom's recording studio for Damon, because he doesn't have much money left to go out to LA and rent studio time and things like that. It's expensive. So Kaylee's like, he can use my mom's studio for free. And it'll also keep him around Boulder so Emily can see him. So Lauren goes home to her dad and complains to him and tells him that if he doesn't tell Darby to choose only her to be team captain, then she will tell the whole world what she did. And Steve's like, oh, what did you do? And it's this very dramatic moment, and Lauren's basically like, I got rid of Sasha by sending Ellen Beals the video, and I'm the only reason you got Summer back and got elected as Parents Board President, and that I owe you nothing and you owe me everything because you robbed me of the only thing I've ever wanted, my mother. And it's a lot. It's a lot, I'll tell you. So Kaylee is showing Damon around the studio, and she tells him that she might drop in on him sometimes because she's gonna pretend like she's doing music to appease her parents. That's gonna be her other hobby. So she's just gonna pretend that she's like helping him with songs and stuff. And then later, Kaylee is Skyping Maeve and tells her about Damon, and Maeve's just like, is he hot? Kaylee's like, I'm not answering that. He's dating my friend. And Emily shows up at Damon's apartment, and she's been freaking out about the rules and everything and the contract she might have to sign. And she's like, if I told you I was gonna give up my dream and my gymnastics to be with you all the time, come on tour with you, what would you say? And he's like, I would tell you that you were making a big mistake. And she's like, I thought that's what you would say. So she tells him about the contract and that she signed it and that she's sorry, but she's not ready to give up on her dream yet. And he's like, well, I don't want you to anyways. I said I'd wait for you, and nothing's changed. So she tells him she's feeling rebellious. So she tells him that there's one thing she can give him now before she turns in that contract: sex. So they bang, and that is how episode 12 ends. Moving right along to episode 13. Darby has the girls in a circle on the mat, and they are each going around and complimenting each other one by one. And Lauren and Payson are beefing heavy and throwing jabs at each other. And so Darby suggests they do an exercise where they swap routines so that they can develop respect for each other. And so she tells Payson and Lauren to swap routines, and Emily will do Darby's routine, like her old routines from whatever. And then we see Kaylee in group therapy again, and she's still not participating fully. But Maeve shows up and picks her up because she got sprung from the rehab facility. She shows up and she's like, it's time to shred some of that rehab fat. Okay. And then Lauren tells Payson that she calls dibs on Max. Payson's like, okay, I didn't want him anyways. They show Steve looking through Lauren's computer, and he finds the video and the email and everything, and so he saves it on a disc, like the full thing. And then they show Kaylee and Maeve shedding some of that rehab fat by sitting in a sauna, and Maeve offers Kaylee some over-the-counter asthma medicine that will help her lose weight, and Kaylee's like, no, we have random drug tests. Like, I don't need to do that. Once I'm back in training, that could be bad for me. So Kaylee is talking to her about Austin, and she says he's really freaked out by the anorexia thing. I guess his sister really did have an out-of-control eating disorder. These girls are in heavy denial about their problems. It's very obvious. Maeve tells her that she needs to turn her parents against her therapist because they're listening to everything that the therapist is telling them, and that if she can do that, then they'll listen to her rather than the therapist. And back at practice, Lauren is trying to teach Payson her beam routine, and so the routine is very sultry and sassy movements in there that are just not Payson's vibe. Y'all know Payson. She's very much athlete. I don't need any of that frilly shit. So she's very much struggling with these moves and in embodying the spirit of Lauren. So Lauren is like showing her the moves, and Max is drooling over them. And Austin and him are talking, and he's like, I thought you had a thing for Payson. And he basically warns Max about Lauren and says his buddy Carter got mangled by her, so be careful. Then Lauren comes over and is like, you can't teach someone to be sexy. Like talking shit about Payson. And so Austin goes over and talks to Payson, and he offers her his help. I don't know how Austin, I mean, I do know how because he does, but I don't know why he thinks that he can help her be sexy. But we'll see. Later at home, Emily is very obsessively checking Damon's webpage, and Chloe's like, I know it seems like forever because you're a teenager, but y'all went on what, 5 dates? Clock her tea, Chloe, because that's so true. And Emily's like very upset. She's like, we're in love. Kaylee, Ronnie, and Alex, and Kaylee's therapist, I think his name is Gene, who I did not print out, but he's the GOAT, to be honest. They have a meeting, and Kaylee talks about how she always tried to be perfect for her parents. Her therapist makes a comment about it, and Alex gets very defensive because he basically feels like he's being accused of playing a hand in her developing an eating disorder. And the therapist is like, didn't you put a scale in the living room? And him and the therapist like keep arguing, and Kaylee's like, I did it. So Steve has the disc now of the training video and shows it to Lauren and tries to tell her how wrong it was. And Lauren's like, since when do you care about right or wrong? Which, honestly is a good question, Lauren, because I mean, this man is on another level of corruption as far as parents of gymnasts go. He fancies himself a politician. Like, this is what happens when you do shady stuff yourself and don't teach your kids about consequences for their actions, and you like get them out of everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the cycle of privilege and money, and it's just ugh. So Steve tells her, he promised Summer with God as his witness that if he ever found out who was responsible for the leaked tape, he would tell her. And Lauren's like, well, you can't. And then Payson talks to her mom about being sexy and having sizzle, and her mom tells her that there's all kinds of sexy and that her mom jeans are sexy and they drive her father wild and whatnot. So, thank you, Kim, for the visual. So Payson decides to call Austin and take him up on his offer for help. So they go to the rock, and he has her not do the beam routine. He has her like work off the beam to like do some exercises to up her confidence and get her to like feel it and get in touch with her essence. And so he has her close her eyes and smell different scents to see which ones make her feel pleasure, and talks about her second chakra. And look, our girl Payson is not into this into this hippie shit. So, she's like not taking this seriously at all. And he has her walk like Lauren and hold her energy in her hips, and then he has her pretend to be a cat to get the feminine energy, and Payson is appalled, and he is like, I can't do this. And Austin's like, you didn't even try. So Maeve eats dinner at the Cruises that night, and kind of adds fuel to the fire about her parents against a therapist. So, she's just making comments here and there, and her and Kaylee are like pretending to scoop food onto their plate, and it's very much like, okay, girls. And then Steve is talking to Summer, and he's talking about, all the mistakes he's made with Lauren and how he failed to teach her right from wrong, which you're just now realizing this. I think it's a little too late for this. You should have done this years ago. And he kind of asks her advice on how to discipline a teenager like this, because you can't spank a teenager, is what he says. And so Summer tells him, you have to teach them to take accountability for their actions and to bear the consequences, because that's the only reason they're gonna learn that what's acceptable to do and what's not. And then later at the Kometkos, Emily finds her mom's Bambi name tag and a napkin from Bodacious Boulders, and she starts to put the pieces together about her mom's job. And the next day at practice, Kaylee and Maeve show up at the Rock to visit with everyone, and Austin approaches and he hears Kaylee say that she might be back training as soon as tomorrow. And then her and Austin have a little tiff because Austin's like, "Are you sure you're ready?" Like, "Well, I can't believe your therapist says that." And she's like, "The only person I need permission from is my parents." And then Maeve leaves to go to the airport because she's going to Milan for some runway something model shoot. I don't know. And then Payson is feeling better about her routine because she says she's going to view it as performance and is just going to become Lauren as like kind of an actress portraying a part kind of thing. And Emily calls Bodacious Boulders and asks if Bambi's there, and they tell her that she is. So she leaves to go, catch her mom in the act kind of thing. And I'm not sure how a 16-year-old girl gets into a strip club, but hey. And so Emily goes off on her mom because it's just another piece of my embarrassing life. And her mom's like, "I'm paying the bills and funding your dream. I don't think you have to complain, honestly." And look, Chloe's not perfect. She has her faults. She's made her mistakes, but she will do anything for her kids, and you have to respect that. And Emily, I get the being embarrassed thing, but no one knows that that's where her mom works besides, Damon, which I don't think Emily knows that he knows. So back at practice, the girls do each other's routines. Lauren does Payson's bars and kills it, and then Payson comes out in makeup and strutting her stuff and does the sexy routine, that is how they refer to it. I feel weird referring to minors, 16 and 17-year-old girls as sexy. So, just understand that was uncomfortable for me to say, and I'm just simply repeating what they said in the show. Anyways, Payson kills it. She puts on the Lauren pizzazz and does the routine super well. And Max tells her that it was smoking hot, and he asks her if she wants to go to Spruce Juice with him, but she says she needs to go see a friend instead, but that he can call her later. So, call me maybe. And then Steve shows up at the Rock to show Summer the extended tape and tell her about what Lauren did, and Lauren catches him and tries to stop him, and she manipulates him by saying, "You've already taken away one mother, please don't take away another," and says all she has left in the world is him and her gymnastics, and if he does this, it will ruin her because, she won't be respected in the gymnastics field anymore. And he's like, "Look, I don't want to ruin you, but you ruined someone else. Don't you understand that? Like, what's not clicking? It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, Lauren." So she convinces him not to show Summer by promising to never do anything like that again, and that she's going to turn over a new leaf like he did. So later, Alex and Ronnie are talking, and they tell Kaylee that they are going to actually trust the therapist, and she starts yelling and tells them that she lied to get out of rehab and that she doesn't have a problem. So she, her plan didn't work. Her parents are gonna listen to the professionals, as they should. And then Payson goes over to the Kmetcos to talk to Emily, and Emily pulls all this woe is me stuff, and Payson's like, "I haven't seen my dad in weeks because my family is in so much debt for my back surgery, and Kaylee can't even step into a gym right now." And you just have to focus on the positives of what you do have, because you have more than some other people do right now. And Emily tells Payson that she had sex with Damon and that she wants her dream, but she doesn't know if it'll be worth it if she loses Damon and doesn't end up making it in the gymnastics world. She's going to have lost everything that she cares about. Later that night, Kaylee tries to call Maeve on the phone, but some woman answers, and it turns out to be Maeve's mother, who tells her that Maeve actually passed away that day in the Denver airport because she had heart failure. And that is how episode 13 ends. Now we are moving on to episode 14. It opens with Kaylee sitting on her bed with her laptop reading an article about Maeve's death, and we find out that the Dallas gym is going to be coming to the Rock for an exhibition meet, and Max is taking pictures of the girls at practice to put into the program for the Dallas meet. Of course, Lauren is posing for him, but he's, taking a lot of Payson as well. Then they show Damon in Kaylee's mom's studio playing the song while looking at a computer screen of Emily's pictures of Emily. And it's very, very, very dramatic. Kaylee comes in and listens for a second and asks him about the song, and he says he's been a little blocked since Emily's his muse and he hasn't been able to see her. And then Kaylee kind of sings back part of the song to him that she really liked, and she sings it back with completely different lyrics. Damon's like, yeah, that's not what I sang. It's actually better. And so he also tells her that she's got some great pipes, and he asks her to sing the song with him and help him write it and finish the song. We also find out that, so while they're in the back of the Rock, the girls are talking about the Dallas meet, and they mention that Dallas is supposedly the best club in the country, which doesn't really make sense to me, because how is it the best club in the country when the Rock has 4 girls on the national and world team? I don't know. They've just never mentioned that team before, so it's kind of, I don't know. Anyways, then Darby comes in to tell the girls that Dallas actually canceled, won't be coming, and the girls are freaking out because they're like, we need a competitive meet before Worlds, and Darby's like, don't worry guys, I got a replacement. I got Pinewood to come compete with us. But the girls are pissed because Pinewood is one of the worst teams in the country, and they aren't real competition, which is what they need before they go to the Hungary meet. And then Darby comes up to Payson and tells her that she needs a friend. She needs someone that's going to have her back with the other girls, because everyone looks up to Payson, and Darby wants that respect from the girls. So if Payson respects her, then the other girls will. So they make a deal that if Payson rouses up some excitement about the Pinewood meet, then Darby will teach Payson a new move to increase her DOD on, I can't remember which apparatus, I'm going to be honest, which will make the meet a bit more competitive for Payson and give her something to look forward to. And then Kim and Summer are talking about Darby, and they're like, yes, she is not old enough or experienced enough to coach these girls, because apparently Darby promised Pinewood that the Rock would pay for all of their travel and lodging expenses. So I guess that's not a normal thing to do, and Darby just didn't know any better. And then Lauren comes into the office, and Summer is acting very motherly, telling her to clean her room and do her chores and homework and all that stuff, and is because she's staying with her while Steve is out of town on a business trip. And Kim sees this and mentions it to Summer after Lauren leaves, and Summer's like, look, Lauren needs a mother, and Steve needs help parenting her. And Kim's like, well, Summer, what do you need? And Summer says that she likes being needed. So there you go. Then Lauren invites Max over to her house that afternoon because she wants him to take some headshots of her for the lobby of the Rock. They want the girls to get new headshots, whatever. And Maeve's mother calls Kaylee and asks her to say a few words at Maeve's memorial service, since, Maeve talked about her and she really helped her make the most of her last time at rehab. And Kaylee's like, well, what do you want me to say? And the mom says, oh, just a few words about your impressions of Maeve and how she was getting better and all this stuff. And so Kaylee agrees, but then she freaks out to Damon afterwards, because they're in the studio when she gets this call, and she's like, I don't even know what I feel, and I don't know what to say. And so he tells her that usually when he feels like that, he writes it down as lyrics or whatever. So he inspires Kaylee to try out that. And then Max offers to Payson to shoot her headshots too at her house that night. And it's really cute, and they're being like flirty and giggling, and he gets on her about not returning his call that she told him to call her, and then never returned it. Which hey, I feel that, Payson. Kaylee's still upset about the funeral and everything, and so Damon offers to go with her because, no one else in her life really knows about Maeve because she doesn't want to tell her parents because it's just going to scare them. And so she gives him his notebook back where she used it to write stuff, and it has only one lyric written on it. Then that night, Max is over at Lauren's taking pictures of her, and she's wearing like a white kind of short sleeve button up shirt and like a short plaid skirt, and there's a lot of boob, a lot of leg going on, and he's taking pictures of her, and she's posing, and he's like, look, maybe you're giving me a lot right now, maybe let's tone it down for headshots, professional headshots. So she's like, yeah, you're right, I'm gonna go change. So while she goes to change, Payson calls him and is like, I'm officially returning your call. And he like tries to ask her out on a date, and she kind of swerves him, but she offers that they go running together instead because she's scared. And so after they hang up, Lauren comes back in wearing lingerie, and that's it. And he's like, oh, this is not what I meant. And she's like, I wanted something for my private collection. Okay, girl. So he continues to take pictures of her, and she's, posing in her lingerie. And of course, Summer walks to the door in the middle of all this. Max leaves, whatnot, and Summer is lecturing Lauren, who somehow convinces Summer to not tell her father because he told him that she was going to change, and clearly she was lying because what is this? She's like, I'm really trying, but I feel like no one loves me, and it's just... She is truly a master manipulator, honestly. She's crying, and she pulls you promised you'd never leave me, and then you went and you were gonna run off with Sasha, so how can I trust you? Like, she turns it right back around on Summer. And so Summer finally agrees to not tell her father if Lauren promises that this is the last time she does something like this. So Lauren agrees and promises, and we'll see if that's true. But also, I don't know why it matters if Summer told her dad, because it's not like he ever punishes her anyways. Like, I don't know why Lauren's so scared. What does she think her dad's gonna do? Oh, I guess he would tell Summer about the tape if he found out about this. Yeah, that's true. The next day at the Rock, Emily is pinning up flyers about Damon's show, and Payson's like, girl, you need to focus on your career, not Damon's. Like, you aren't sticking any of your landings. Which is a valid point, Payson. And then Lauren tells Max that she thinks Payson is a lesbian. She really does the most. This girl cannot handle any sort of competition. It's crazy. And Kim talks to Darby about how Darby needs to set boundaries with the girls instead of being their friend. Darby needs to tell Payson that Payson cannot do that vault move because Kim is worried that it's gonna hurt her back or whatnot, that she's not able to do that move with her current back situation. And Kim's like, if you don't tell her that she can't do that move, I'm gonna tell her, because Payson does not know her limits. She just always wants to get better and better and push herself. Darby goes over and tells Payson not to do it, and Payson goes off on her and is like, this is the only reason I was excited about this stupid meet with Pinewood, that everyone but you knows is a colossal waste of time. To remedy this, Darby decides that the girls are going to have a sleepover at the Rock that night to get excited about the meet. How is this going to get them excited? I don't know. And then they show Kaylee and Damon going to Maeve's funeral, and Kaylee talks to Maeve's mom, and her mom mentions how well Maeve was doing and how she was on the way to recovery, and refuses to believe that anorexia was what killed her, and she really wants Kaylee to tell everyone at the funeral how happy and healthy Maeve was in the end. And Kaylee freaks out and runs out of the church and has a breakdown because she can't go and lie to all of these strangers because Maeve was lying to everyone, even herself, and so is Kaylee, and she's like crying, and she's like, I don't want to die, and Damon hugs her and comforts her and stuff. And then later that night, Kaylee and Damon are talking before his performance, and he tells her that he used the lyrics she wrote in his journal about Maeve to finish the song, and that he wants her to sing it with him at the show as in replacement of the speech she didn't give at the funeral. The rest of the girls are at the sleepover with Darby, and Lauren suggests that they go to the Pizza Shack to see Damon's performance. But she only wants to go because she invited Max to meet her there, or like told him about it and told him that she was going to be there earlier, so she just wants to go to see him. And she somehow convinces Darby to take them, even though Emily is like strictly not allowed to go anywhere. Lauren also shows Payson the pictures Max took of her in her lingerie and was also sure to mention that she had a date with him that night, even though she literally just told him about the show it was like under the pretenses of a group meetup. Like, so she's very clearly trying to intimidate Payson and like mark her territory with Max. They go to the show, and Damon is performing, and he brings Kaylee on stage to sing their song. And Emily is like visibly rattled by this because Damon and Kaylee are like looking into each other's eyes dramatically and singing to each other on stage. They hug afterwards, and Emily looks pissed, which I would be too if I had sex with you for the first time and then you go and write a song with another girl. Huh? What's not clicking with you, Damon? Yes, it was innocent, but you gotta realize how it's gonna come across to your girlfriend that you told you would wait for, you know? So Summer then shows up at the Rock to check on the girls and Darby to make sure that they are, that Darby's actually doing her job. And Marcus also shows up. He tried visiting Emily at the Kmetco's, but Chloe told him that they were at the gym. And Summer's like, they're not here. So, and then they notice the flyers on the wall, and they're like, I bet I know where they are. So Summer shows up at the Pizza Shack and gets Lauren in trouble because she knows she's behind this. And she warns Emily that Marcus is outside, and they get her out before he comes in and sneak her out the back. And Payson distracts him, and she tells him that Emily went home when they decided to go to Pizza Shack because she wasn't allowed and was actually following the rules. And then while she's talking to Marcus, Darby comes up with a beer, and she's acting real goofy. This was a great idea. Damon Young is awesome. And Marcus is right there, and she didn't notice Marcus, but he's like, hello, Darby. And she's like, oh. So yeah, we'll see how long Darby lasts as coach. And then the next day is time for the Pinewood meet. And they come in looking like the best team in America. They strut in, and the girls are like, they look a little more fierce than I remember. And the girls choke because they underestimated them, and they're like messing up simple stuff. Like, I understand this because back in high school when I played soccer, we would beat these really good teams, but then we would play teams much worse than us, and we would play on their level for some reason because we thought it was going to be easy. I don't know. It's some sort of psychological something behind it. It was always happened. It was very weird. So I understand why they did worse here, but in order to salvage, the meet or try to win at all, Darby comes up to Payson and tells her to do the vault that she had originally told her not to do, to try to pull out the win at the last minute. And Payson's like, I haven't done it without the trampoline, but I'll try. And Mama Bear Kim Keeler comes up, and she's giving Molly Weasley in the last Harry Potter movie when she's fighting Bellatrix, when she's like, not my daughter, you bitch. It's giving very much that. And Kim says to Darby, you better not have told her to do that vault. I defended you, but if you put my daughter at risk, I'll be your worst enemy. And Mama Bear Kim is scary. Like, if I was Darby, I would have pissed my pants. But, Payson tries to do the vault and she ends up, like, falling flat on her back instead of successfully doing it, because how in the world would she have successfully doing it if she's never done it without an assisted trampoline thing? Like, come on, Darby, you're just stupid. How would this have helped you win? Seriously. And even if she was able to successfully complete it, it would not be nowhere near the quality that you needed to win. Anyways, Payson ends up falling, but she's fine. But Kim is pissed, and The Rock ends up losing to Pinewood. And Payson tells Darby afterwards that they need a real coach and not a friend or buddy, and she goes off on her and then walks away. And then Lauren says, and a real coach would never walk away from a diss like that. So even Lauren's done with Darby's shit. And then the episode ends with Kaylee writing in a journal to work through her feelings, and she finally admits to having anorexia. Like, she writes it down. I am Kaylee Cruz and I have anorexia. So she's finally coming to terms with the fact that she does have a problem, and she can actually now start getting better instead of, pretending she doesn't have a problem. So that's the end of episode 14. Now moving on to episode 15. Payson sees a letter in her mom's office that is going to be sent out to Sasha, and the address is in Romania. So Sasha's presumably back in Romania. And then Steve gives a warning to Darby that she's going to be under a magnifying glass at this meet in Hungary after everything that happened with Pinewood. And so Darby tries to switch up and act all tough and authoritative with the girls, and it's just not giving what she thinks it's giving. It's giving very much like...
I'm not asking, I'm telling. I will see you at the airport at 10 a.m. And if any one of you is late, you'll all have hell to pay.
I can't imagine anyone takes this seriously. Damon shows up at Emily's house when they're about to leave for the airport and asks why she hasn't returned any of his calls, and she demands to know what's going on between him and Kaylee, and he's like, nothing, I love you have to trust me. And Emily says she can't trust him and that she can't have him messing with her head, and breaks up with him. So Darby again is trying to be, all big and scary, and the girls are not taking it seriously, and neither am I. And then Kaylee is finally opening up to her therapist and taking therapy seriously, and he tries to get her to dig deeper about the reasoning behind why she stopped eating and kind of pinpoint the timing, because he doesn't think it was solely to beat Genji Cho. He thinks there's a bigger reasoning behind it. Payson and Emily and Lauren on the way to the Hungry meet, and they scheme and plan to go to Romania while they have their layover in Heathrow. And they use Lauren's dad's emergency credit card that he gave her to buy the tickets. And so they're in the airport, and they plan this whole scheme to get away from Darby and Summer, because they're the ones that are chaperoning them. So they have a fake phone call at the desk to call Summer up to get her away, and then they end up ditching Darby while they're in the bathroom, and they run away and run into Kelly Parker, who's coming in to fill in for Kaylee, even though she didn't even make it on the world team. So I don't know why I don't know. It just makes no sense to me. So Summer and Darby end up figuring out what happened, and Summer says she's going to Romania to get them. And Emily tells the girls on the plane that she actually broke up with Damon because she thinks there's something going on between him and Kaylee, and the girls are like, no, Kaylee would literally never do that. So Emily begins to question her decision to break up, because after what Lauren did to Kaylee would literally never hurt her friends the way that she was hurt. I mean, if you know her at all, you would know that she would never do that. So I think Emily's she's just kind of at her breaking point, and just, jumping to conclusions and kind of making problems out of nothing, because I don't know, it's just a lot of self-sabotage almost. So the girls make it to Romania, and they take a taxi to some random little village, and they are like, I don't know where to go now. So they go into this random pub bar kind of thing to see if they can figure out where to go. Lo and behold, who was the bartender at this little bar? Sasha. And he's like, what the damn hell are y'all doing here? You guys are supposed to be in Budapest right now. And they tell him that they are not leaving without him. And he says, well, you're going to be here a while because I'm not going back. And they each, try individually to convince him, but to no avail. And Payson sends Emily and Lauren off to go to Budapest. And she stays because she doesn't think that Sasha will actually let her miss the meet. And back in America, Kaylee shows Damon her journal to give him some insight on some feelings Emily might be having, because he doesn't understand why she freaked out and broke up with him. And she kind of gives him an insight into what like the gymnastics world makes you feel. And she figured out that she stopped eating when she won nationals because she thought that winning a big title would fix everything, but she still felt, those same feelings of inferiority and things like that. And it wasn't the sport, it was her. And she would have had these issues no matter what her passion was. And so Damon realizes that Emily is who she is and that he needs to let her go. So back in Romania, Summer shows up at the pub as well to get Payson to leave and tells her it's time to let go. And sometimes you just have to accept that you can't get what you want. And so Payson gives one more impassioned speech to Sasha and gives him his gold medal back that he had given her in, season 1 to keep and hold on to until she won her own. Or maybe it was early season 2. I can't remember. And she's like, calls him a quitter and is like, I don't want a quitter's gold medal, actually. So you can have this back. And then Kim and Steve Tanner actually have a bit of a bonding moment about how determined and bullheaded their daughters are, which is sweet. And they decide to watch the meet together. And the girls all make it back, but without Sasha. And then we show Damon and Kaylee again, and Damon wrote a song inspired by all the things that Kaylee was feeling and that she shared with him. And it's very sweet, and she feels, very seen, because he says he felt similar feelings when he won the radio show, and he thought it'd make him feel like a star, but it didn't. And the girls that night, these 3, are sleeping in their hotel room, and they hear a knock on the door, and they open it, and it's Sasha. Yay! And he tells them that what they did was inexcusable, and that they've become lazy, and he has no interest in coaching them unless they can show him that they can win tomorrow. So it's the next day, it's competition day. Russia has a really good gymnast. Her name is Ivanka, and she has never competed internationally. So she's like their kind of secret weapon, and we're going to see what she's got today, apparently. And Sasha has a meeting with the girls that morning where they make a promise to each other to get to Worlds together. And the girls walk out, and Sasha's with them, and everyone's like, huh? Where the hell did he come from? And the girls are also shook by Ivanka and her skill, and she even does better than Lauren, Queen of the Beam, on beam. And Emily slips on bars, and the coach that's I guess he's coaching the world or national team, I guess he's like a fill-in or something for Marty and Ellen, I don't know. They never really address that. He decides to pull Emily, and Sasha tries to, get him to change his mind, but he's like, no, she's out, and Kelly Parker is in. Sasha's like, look, she just needs to know that you believe in her, and the coach is like, well, that's the thing, I don't. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. Who's winning the gold? All comes down to Payson and Ivanka and their floor routine. So Payson kills it, but it doesn't really matter because the U.S. ends up getting silver and Russia gets the gold. And then there's this really good scene where Sasha, he's got insane aura, and he's talking to Darby, and Darby says, I could have gotten them there. And Sasha's like, perhaps in time, but we don't have time. And Darby says, you're so sure you can get them through Worlds? And Sasha's like, yes. He just has just like casual confidence that it just can't be shaken, and I see what Summer saw in him. I hate having something in common with Summer, but anyways, the chairman of the Hungarian National Committee wants to speak to Emily in his office, and so she and Sasha go in there, and he's like, something came up in your urine test, and at first Emily thinks it's, she had drank an energy drink, and she's like, I didn't know if it had a substance in it. I'm sorry, I only took one sip. I didn't know if it would show up. And the guy's like, so actually no, it's actually, yeah, you're pregnant. So that is how episode 15 ends. So episode 16 opens with Emily at, like an OBGYN appointment. She's getting the ultrasound done and things like that. And the doctor's talking to her about protection, and then Emily's like, we didn't use any. Because she's like, we only had sex once, and I've only had a period once in my life, so I didn't think. And Chloe's like, Emily. But the doctor gives her, brochures on her options: abortion, adoption, having the baby, things like that. And they tell her no high impact exercise, so she probably cannot do high level gymnastics. Sasha is also officially back at the Rock now. Yay! And they're having an interview being held there with the girls. It's kind of like a press conference news vibe. And Sasha's like, you need to shut this shit down. Emily cannot do this. Because she's not coming. Because he thinks, that she's making pregnancy decisions and not gonna show up. But she then walks in and shows up to do the interview. And back at Cruz's house, Damon tells Kaylee that his label loves the song they wrote together, and they want it to be his first single, but they also went crazy over the girl who sang it with him, and they want her to be on the official record. So the girls at the Rock do their interview, and Emily's like, I'm ready for Worlds, I'm gonna go, or whatever, when they ask her about it. And Sasha talks to her afterwards, and he's kind of like, so you told the reporter you're ready for Worlds, does that mean you've made some decisions on? And Emily goes, about what? Girl, please. And Sasha's like, about your pregnancy. Like, girl, you're pregnant. Did you forget? And Emily's like, I'm only 6 weeks along, so I have some time to decide. And so I was like, no, you don't. Worlds are right around the corner. And so she's like, I'm going to decide when I know if I'm going to Worlds or not. Which I guess is fair, but I don't know. Damon and Kaylee are working on new songs. And Kaylee's like, I feel so relieved now that it feels like I'm not only good at one thing anymore. Gymnastics, she has other options if she wants to take them with, music or something. And they have like a little moment with some intense eye contact and whatnot. So maybe there was some merit to Emily's worries. And then we see Lauren, and she's telling her dad that he needs to propose to Summer now that Sasha's back, to kind of mark his territory. She didn't say that, but that's the vibes it was giving. And then Chloe tries to talk to Emily about the pregnancy and asks her if she has a problem with ending it. And Emily's like, no, do you? And her mom was like, you are my greatest gift in the world, but I want differently for you. Back then, I thought I didn't have a choice. Chloe's low-key telling her that if she thought she had the choice to abort her, she would have. It's kind of giving that, which is crazy to say. But they talk about abortions and how they're legal. And Emily's like, sure, they're legal, but does that mean that it's right? And they talk about how different people believe different things, and about how the soul enters the body at different times, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to get into all that. But so Emily's got some decisions to make, basically. That's a crazy decision to make, deciding when you believe the soul enters the body. Is it at the heartbeat? Is it during sex? So Steve, I guess, took Lauren's advice and somehow has time to set up this elaborate proposal for Summer with rose petals and notes everywhere that lead her to them being in a closet, and they pop out, and he proposes to her, and Lauren's right there and is all excited and everything. And Summer's like, I need to think about it. It is awkward. Their faces just fall on. Steve's like, oh, yeah, no, that's fine. So, honestly, first good decision Summer's made. And then Chloe comes to Rock to talk to Sasha and get some advice and his opinion on what they should do. And with Emily and the baby, and Sasha's like, I don't have an opinion. And Chloe's like, no, like, I need your help. You're her coach. Like help, like talk to her or something. Sasha's like, this decision will show if she has the mettle to go all the way. And Chloe's like, this is my daughter's life. This is not a test, which is fair. Sasha's being very weird about this whole situation, which, I mean, I guess it's just like something that he's never gone through before, so he doesn't know how to navigate it, which, I mean, is fair, but neither does Emily. They then show Kaylee talking to her therapist about her song, and she's like, it feels so good knowing I have something else, knowing I'll be okay if gymnastics don't work out. It's kind of like a balm. So Jean, her therapist, tells her it might be time for her to get back to training, and Kaylee's kind of like, oh. So that day at practice, Lauren is struggling. She's got the twisties, which are a real thing. Simone Biles even had them. That's why she was at the Olympics that she decided not to compete in, because she was having the twisties, because it's just like a mental health, like you get in your head and you can't do the moves correctly, which is crazy to think about. But and so Sasha's talking to Lauren about it, trying to remedy it, and he's like, is there anything in particular on your mind right now? And so he wants her to come in and work with him in the morning early before practice until they work through it. And Summer tells Kim about the proposal, and Kim tells her that she should try one more time to talk to Sasha, lay it all out there, and see if there's any way that he can go there with her and kind of get on her level with her beliefs or anything like that. And then Marcus comes to the gym and tells Emily that she has been reinstated on the world team and is gonna go to Rio. And Emily kind of freaks out and runs out of the gym after she finds this out. And Payson follows her out to talk to her, and Emily tells Payson that she's pregnant. And Payson kind of starts lecturing her, like, how could you do this to yourself and to the team and whatnot? And Emily's like crying, and she's like, I just need a friend right now. I don't need a lecturer. And Payson says, the best way I know to be your friend is to support your gymnastics. And so, which fair enough, I guess. And Payson tells her how everyone believes in her, and Emily's like, well, I don't believe in me. I'm not special, blah, blah, blah. And she says that maybe this pregnancy is just a sign from the universe and that this will be the easier path. And Payson's like, being a single mother is not easier, I don't think, babe. So Sasha tells Summer about Emily's pregnancy because he wants her advice, and Summer uses this as an opportunity to test where he is on his Christian values level. Summer tells him that he needs to tell Emily that she has his love and support no matter what, and everything will be okay when she has the baby. And he's like, I can't tell her that because I don't want her to have the baby. He says he wants her to go to the Olympics and get sponsorships and get her family out of that shitty house. And Summer's like, that baby is a human being, not a game piece. And y'all know Christian girl Summer. Oh my god, that Christian girl Autumn. Christian girl Summer is not down with abortion. So even Sasha even hinting that is something he would want Emily to do shows her that he's not there with her on her beliefs. So what does she do? She goes right over to the Tanner's house and tells Steve that she will marry him. And then at the cruises, Kaylee and Damon record their song, and they're like listening to it back, and they kind of have a moment and they end up kissing. But Kaylee stops it and she says they can't do this, it's wrong. And Damon's like, it doesn't feel wrong. Besides, Emily and I are broken up, and Kaylee says that Emily is still her best friend and she doesn't want to hurt her. Now, low-key, maybe this actress or Kaylee just has chemistry with everyone. You know, she's kind of one of those. But her and Damon, they kind of give me that buzz more so than Damon and Emily. I don't know. I don't like Damon because what he's doing right now with her is really shitty to Emily. And I really like Kaylee and Austin, but I don't know. It's kind of giving. Anyways, that night, Marcus shows up at the Kmetko's because Chloe told him about Emily's pregnancy, and he tells Emily that they've been through this before and that she could have the procedure on a Friday and be back in training on a Monday. And Emily freaks out and says she is so sick of them controlling everything she does, and she will not let them control this too, that it's her body, her choice, which is true and valid. But I don't think Marcus was trying to control this decision. I think he was giving her an option and telling her that if that is the option, abortion is the option she wanted to go through, that the NGO will support her in that and kind of help her through that situation. I don't think he was trying to tell her that that's what she should do, because he had just talked to her mom, and I think that that's the conclusion they came to. I don't know. I think this reaction is a little over the top for what he said. But Marcus is like, look, I've grown close to you and your mother and your family, and I care about you guys and want what's best for you. And Emily immediately jumps to the conclusion that he's sleeping with her mom. He's like, what is going on between you two? And they're like, nothing. Like, she's gone fully off the deep end, like about to be in crazy town. It's honestly scary. Like, they literally ruin her character so much in these from basically last episode, whenever she started getting jealous of Damon and Kaylee, from then to like when she leaves the show, she just has like this crazy look in her eyes, and it's why I don't know why they did this to her character. They could have just had her have like an injury and have to leave the show. They didn't have to do all this pregnancy thing. Was, I feel like, just an unnecessary storyline. It's just sending a weird message. Anyways, but she is in full crash out mode, and her mom's like, okay, you're hormonal, which I don't think is something you're supposed to say to someone who is hormonal. Tells her to calm down. Emily's like, no one understands, but Damon will understand. He loves me and he'll take care of me. And I hate to break this to you, Em, but Damon is kissing another girl right now. So I'm glad, and you literally dumped him, so I don't. Okay, so the next morning, Sasha is working with Lauren to work her through her twisties, and she ends up getting through it, and he's like, wow, that's the fastest I've ever seen anyone get over the twisties. And she starts crying, actually, because she realizes that Sasha actually cares for her, and he's like, I've always cared for you, I just didn't think you wanted to let me in. And they kind of have this bonding moment. And then Damon is at his apartment, and Emily shows up at his door, and she's frantic and asks if he meant it when he said he'd wait. And she's like, what if forever can be right now? And tells him that she's pregnant. And he's understandably shocked because she just came in like a tornado with no warning, telling him that he's going to be a father. And it's like, it's okay. And he asks her, like, what about your dream? And she's like, my dream is killing me, and this is my way out, and I'm gonna go home and pack, and I'm going to move in with you. This whole scene is genuinely, like, I'm gonna insert a clip. It's genuinely, like, she's giving insane.
Now, we can have this baby, we can have a family, and I can come on tour with you. I'm gonna move in with you, okay? I need you, Damon. This is gonna be great. It's exactly what I want.
I don't think this is all hormones, guys. Saying that this is all hormones is making women, it's giving misogyny, honestly. Like, oh, she must be on her period. It's giving that. Like, it's, no, maybe anyways, like, I know pregnancy can make your hormones go a little crazy, but this is giving, I'm gonna murder someone. Like, I'm shocked Kaylee's still alive at this point. So anyways, Lauren decides, after her bonding moment with Sasha, to send the full video that shows Sasha pushing Payson off of him when she kisses him to the NGO to clear his name. And then Kaylee goes over to Emily's house and tells her about her and Damon kissing, because a big part of her recovery is being honest, and she says that they got caught up in the music and it only happened once and that she doesn't want to hurt her and that it's never gonna happen again and blah blah blah. And Emily just like shuts it down and doesn't say anything, and so Kaylee leaves. Now, mind you, Kaylee had no clue that Emily was pregnant, and otherwise I don't think Kaylee would have told her this. Payson talks to her mom about how she feels like Emily abandoned them a little bit and deserted her and her team, and kind of gets some advice on what to do. And so Kaylee, Lauren, Payson all show up at Emily's house now that they, all are aware of the entire situation. And Chloe is there and tells them that Emily's not there and that she's actually on a bus to Las Vegas to see her godmother and that she decided to have the baby. And so they show Emily on a bus and she's like reliving her gymnastics moments and everything in her head, and they kind of play like a little montage. And so the other three girls go to gymnastics camp, to their old spot where they carved their names in season 1 because they don't want to be alone anymore. And they reminisce about Emily for a while, and Kaylee tells them that she's ready to come back to the Rock. And their parents also show up, and Sasha, they're like watching them from a distance. And Ronnie says, it's like a funeral. One of the other parents is like, yeah, I think it is for them. So they finally come out and show them that they're there, and they brought food and sleeping bags and everything, and tell them that Sasha has been named the world team coach. So the episode ends with, it's like a happy ending, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a weird timing for that, I feel like, but whatever. And that's episode 16, the end of episode 16. Moving on, episode 17. Episode 17 starts with Kaylee in a therapy appointment talking about her first day back at the Rock for national team practice, and she tells Jean that she feels like Emily leaving is her fault because she told her about the kiss and everything, and Jean's like, well, you were honest and that's part of your recovery, so you can't blame yourself for other people's decisions. They show that there's a lot of press and such at the Rock because they're going to announce who's going to be taking Emily's place, and Sasha as the new world team coach is going to announce that and everything. And Austin asks Payson if it's true that Emily's pregnant and questions if Kaylee's actually ready to be back. And Payson tells him that Kaylee needs all of their support right now, and she finally shows up, and everyone's really excited to see her. Lauren gives out invitations to Summer's engagement party that she's going to be throwing for her, and Summer's being really awkward around Sasha because she doesn't want to tell him about the engagement. Kelly Parker's there for national team practice, and so Sasha finally makes his announcement to the press and tells them that Kelly Parker will be taking Emily's spot. One of the reporters asks if Kaylee will be competing at Worlds now that she's back from her ACL tear, which is the lie that they told the media. They didn't tell them that she has anorexia. And Sasha says that no, Kaylee will not be going to Worlds because she will not be ready to compete, but he has not decided who will take her spot. So after the press conference, Kaylee goes over to ask him about this, and she's like, I'm ready. And he says it's more important to focus on the Olympics. If you blow it at Worlds, it will be bad for your chances at the Olympics. But she's freaking out because she says it's very rare for a gymnast to go to the Olympics if they don't go to Worlds, but he's not budging. Kaylee tells the girls that she's gonna trust Sasha on this because she didn't listen to him when he knew she had a problem, and part of her recovery is about being objective about herself. So she's gonna trust her coach on this one and not fight him on it. And then Kelly Parker talks to Sasha and tells him that he better not be playing favorites with his Rock girls, and tries to assert herself as team captain and suggests her little mini-me named Tessa Grande to take Kaylee's spot because she needs another Denver team member on the team so that she will be elected as team captain, basically, is her reasoning behind wanting this girl. Sasha's like, I'm not going to play favorites, especially with you. Sasha talks to the team, and he tells the girls to view the next couple of days of practice as sort of an audition and gives them a list of compulsories that they need to have down. And after that, he will pick 2 girls that are going to compete for the open spot on the world team. And Sasha tells Kaylee to do some light conditioning to build back her stamina. So she goes outside and Austin follows her. And he tells her she just needs to be patient. And Kaylee's like, you and I both know I don't have time to be patient. But she says she's going to do it Sasha's way. Also, Austin's shoes in this scene. What are those? He's wearing like metallic silver sneakers. Oh man, they are bad. Anyways, so Lauren mentions casually a engagement shower to Summer, and Summer's like, oh, and by the way, I absolutely do not want a shower. And Lauren's like, oh. Well, I already have one planned. She didn't tell her that because it's going to be a surprise, but whatever. So Kaylee comes home to her house and sees Damon in the studio, and she's like, what the f***? Why are you here right now and not with Emily? And he says he hasn't heard anything from her and she won't answer his calls. And Kaylee tells him that she actually left town because she told her that they kissed and that it didn't mean anything. And Damon's like, oh, what do you mean it didn't mean anything? Like, this man cares more about that than about his whole baby. Like, and Kaylee's like, we can't, no, we're not doing that right now. You need to go with Emily. So Max is trying to put the work into Payson. So he meets her on her running route. And she's like, please leave me out of these games. I know you're dating Lauren. And he's like, no, I'm not. But she like ends up running away from him, I think. So at practice, Sasha sees Kaylee do like a back handspring on a beam. And he yells at her to get down. And Payson talks to him. He's like, aren't you being a bit cautious? And he says that they've all proved that they don't know their limits, so now it's his job to set them, which I guess is fair. But Summer is hemming and hawing about telling people because of Sasha that she's engaged, and so she's like not wearing her ring. But Lauren is of course really pushing it because I guess she thinks if people know, then there's a less chance that it will end. You know what I'm saying? So then they show Damon showing up at the Kometkos to see Chloe because he's trying to get her to tell him where Emily is, and she is understandably angry at him. She's like, you kissed another girl. And he's like, we were broken up. We were on a break. And he says, do you think it's easy loving Emily? She has pushed me and pulled me since the day we met. And I would just like to say, I don't know if that's true. Like, Damon, I feel like you were the one doing the pushing and pulling at some point, like, in the season 1. I don't know. Chloe's like, well, it doesn't matter what either of you want now. All that matters is that baby. So, back at practice, Kelly is being very harsh on her mini-me Tessa. And she can't get one of the moves or something. And so Kelly, like, storms off. And Kaylee comes up and helps her and is really nice about it. And Tessa ends up nailing it. And Payson comes up and is like, well, why are you helping the competition? Payson tells Kaylee like that she wants her to put up a fight. And Kaylee's like, no, I gotta do it Sasha's way. And then Damon walks in. And everyone's like, what the hell is he doing here? And Kaylee goes out to talk to him. And Kelly makes a comment to Austin and says, first he knocks up Emily, and now rumor has it he's hooking up with Kaylee. In her fragile state, it's absolutely shameful. Like, I don't know why she just has to get in everybody's business. It's so funny. She just likes to, like, she's like the puppet master and pulling the strings. I don't know. I can't help have a soft spot for her, though. I don't know why. I just do. Anyways, they show Damon talking to Kaylee outside, and he tells her that Chloe told him where Emily is, and he's going to go and be with her and be there for her and the baby. And they make a promise to each other to fight for their dreams because she doesn't want him to give up on his record and wants him to finish it. And she promises not to give up on her dream either and to fight for it. And they hug. And of course, while they're hugging, Austin comes out and sees it. So it kind of like confirms to him what Kelly told him. And he comes over and punches Damon and says, what the hell is wrong with you? You already ruined one girl's life. And Damon's like, I probably deserve that. He says goodbye to Kaylee and he leaves. But then Kaylee turns around and Austin and says, what the hell is wrong with you? He said, I'm protecting you. And Kaylee's like, I am not your sister. Do you understand me? I can take care of myself. How the hell am I supposed to know what I'm capable of if no one will give me a chance? I deserve a chance, Austin. I remember that line so well for some reason. Like, it sticks in my head. It's just like I could hear it in my head the way she says it. I don't know. Anyways, so she storms inside and she's all fired up and she goes over to Payson and tells her that she's ready to fight. So that night at the Spruce Juice, the Kaylee, Lauren, and Payson go over the compulsories to make a plan for how Kaylee's gonna catch up and be able to do them. So they say that they're gonna practice at night in the gym because Lauren has a copy of Summer's Key. So they're like, why not start now? So they go straight there. And on their way out of the Spruce Juice, they notice that there's some pictures up that are of Payson doing gymnastics. And they realize that Max took them and put them up there somehow. Then they leave, and there's a training compilation of them that night of them doing conditioning and drills and skills and whatnot. And the next day at practice, Max asks Payson if she's been by the Spruce Juice lately, and she gets awkward and says no and walks away, and he's like, And then Lauren comes up and tells him that Payson did actually see them, but she didn't seem too impressed, and she's like, I completely understand why you couldn't put up the ones you took of me. And then Austin comes to talk to Kaylee and apologizes for projecting his sister's illness onto her, and that a big part of recovery is having the support of the people who care about you, and that now she has his. So Payson's like, well, the best way you can support her is by helping us practice tonight because we need spotters because we're hitting uneven bars or something. I don't know. And Tessa overhears this, and of course she goes running over to Kelly and rats them out. And Kelly runs straight over to Sasha and rats them out to him because God forbid anyone try to do better. And so that night when they're practicing, Sasha shows up and gets mad at them, and Payson's like, look, I'm sorry, but that is Kaylee's spot. You have to give her a chance to compete at least. And they all try to convince him, but he's not budging. And then Max and Austin talk to him too. And of course, Sasha listens to the men's opinions instead of the girls and says he will see one apparatus. And so Kaylee decides to show him her bars routine, and she does it. And he says that it is one of the cleanest routines he's ever seen from her on bars, but that when he said she wasn't ready, he didn't just mean physically, he also meant mentally, and that this stunt and just proves that. So his decision stays, and she will not be going to Worlds. And then later, Payson talks to her mom about Max, and she's like, I don't want to end up like Emily. And Kim's like, first of all, you are not Emily. You are allowed to admire a boy who admires you without your whole world falling apart. And then Lauren tells Summer that she wants her to legally adopt her, and Summer agrees and is really excited, I think. So, I mean, outwardly she is, but inwardly, I don't know. Kaylee has Sasha speak to her therapist to kind of get his opinion on whether she is mentally ready or whatnot. The therapist, Jean, he starts analyzing Sasha. It's really funny. And Sasha is not receptive at all. But Jean is basically trying to get him to see that he doesn't need to be extra cautious just because he failed to do the impossible before, which was read Kaylee's mind and know what was going on in there, know that she was hurting herself kind of thing. And same with, the other girls. He couldn't control Payson breaking her back or Emily getting pregnant, but he does not respond well to this and kind of storms out. And so that day later, Sasha comes in to announce who will be competing for the spot on the world team. And he says the girls he chose are Tessa Grande, Annie Dillon, and Kaylee Cruz. And everyone is super excited and hype. and they all hug and whatnot. And then Payson apologizes to Max about lying about seeing the photos and explains it was because she was embarrassed, but that she thought it was really beautiful. And he tells her that it's her that he's interested in, not Lauren. And she tells him that she likes him, but she can't risk screwing up her gymnastics by getting wrapped up in someone else. So they decide to be friends for now. And then when he leaves and goes to his car, Lauren, of course, is staying there. And she just like kisses him. Like, okay, girl. Like, Lauren, can you get up? Can we get up? Come on, stand up, please. I need you to have some dignity. Come on now. And then Summer talks to Sasha that night when she's leaving the gym. He's like working out on some bars or something. And she finally tells him about her engagement. And he's like, congratulations. And goes back to working out. And that's like the extent. And she leaves and she gets home. And before she walks in, she puts her engagement ring on and takes a deep breath and walks in and puts a smile on her face. And she walks into a surprise bridal shower. Anyways, that's the end of episode 17. Next is episode 18. It opens with Payson and Max running on a trail together, and they stumble upon a stray dog, which is actually featured in this Max picture. And they take her with them to the gym so they can take her to the vet later that day, and they like hide her somewhere and I don't know where. We are then introduced to Kelly's mana momster, which is a term coined by Kim. It is because she is part manager, part mom, part monster. So she's Kelly's mom and manager, and she is a shark. So she shows up at the Rock with her bus office that has Kelly's face on it. It's like a big RV because Kelly has decided to do her pre-Worlds training at the Rock with the rest of the world team. Okay, her real name is Sheila Baboyan. That's a name right there. And Lauren tells the girls that she is with Max now officially. And like right after she says that, he walks in the door with Payson and Kelly's like, has anyone told him that? See, when Kelly is mean to Lauren, it's good stuff. We find out that they're going to have a mini meet at the end of the week for the 3 girls to compete to be on the world's team. And we see Kelly talking to her mom, and her mom is telling her that she literally cannot afford to share the spotlight with Kaylee, and especially since she let her beat her at nationals, and tells her to make sure that Tessa is ready to go and to do what she does best and psych Kaylee out so that Tessa will make the spot and that Kelly will be able to be the captain, because that's the only way she's going to be able to get sponsors is if Kaylee doesn't go. So Lauren asks Max what is going on with him and Payson, and he says that they're just friends, and she asks, well, what are we? And he says, I don't know. And she's like, still? But you kissed me. And Max is like, I'm pretty sure you kissed me. Like, Lauren, please take the hint, girl. This is embarrassing to watch. And she says something like, well, you kissed me back. And he's like, well, I guess I did, and whatever. Then we see Kelly Parker talking shit to Kaylee while she's on the beam and getting in her head. And then she, like, fucks up her landing. And Austin comes over to check on her, and he offers to stay late and help her to get ready for the meet since she's had so much time off. And she says no because Sasha said no more secret practices. They show Mark going to Bodacious Boulders for a meeting with a possible new coworker, something, and he's trying to get a new job to move back to Boulder, and he sees Chloe Kometko there working. Then they show Austin talking to Sasha, and he asks for permission to work with Kaylee after hours. And Sasha's at first kind of iffy, but Austin tells him that he knows about her anorexia and his sister had it, and he was one of the first people to confront her about it because he saw the signs and he knows what to look out for, so he can be trusted with her, basically. So Sasha agrees, but he wants to know exactly what they're working on and wants no surprises. And then that night, Max brings the dog to Payson's house and says she got a clean bill of health at the vet and that he had given her name Phoebe. They have a little cute little friendly moment. The next day, Austin tells Kaylee that he got permission from Sasha to do extra practice, and she gets really mad at him and goes off on him for trying to save her again and tells him to deal with his unresolved issues with his sister's illness in his therapy office, and instead of treating her like his little project. Ooh. And yeah, it's a hard watch. And then she like walks away from him, but she eventually comes back and apologizes and says she snapped at him because she's feeling all this pressure and really stressed, and he's like, it's fine, and I promise you, and I'll think of you as my sister. And then he tells her that he has a plan because he doesn't think that she'll be able to be ready on all 4 events by the end of the week, and since Emily left, they don't have a strong vaulter, so they are only going to work on vault and give her like a crazy high DOD so that Sasha will have to take her. And Kaylee's like, Sasha's never gonna go for this, and Austin says, yeah, that's why we won't tell him. So Kaylee's a little iffy, but she eventually agrees. Later, Max asks Payson if she thinks she'll ever change her mind about dating him, and she's like, no, I don't think so. And they show Austin and Kaylee practicing that night, doing the vault and getting her it. That's like the only thing that they're doing. And they have a little moment at practice too, and they get like close and lots of eye contact, and yeah. We then see Mark, and he says he didn't get the job that he was applying for in Boulder. And he also tells Kim that he saw Chloe working at Bodacious Boulders, and that, you know, we all gotta do what we all gotta do kind of thing. So Lauren, seeing that Max still kind of has a thing for Payson, tries a new tactic and challenges him to a game of one-on-one basketball because she thinks that Max likes the jockness of Payson and how athletic she is and things like that. And then the dog gets loose in the gym and like runs around, and someone's like, whose dog is this? And they both, Payson and Max, say mine, and Lauren's like, they have a dog together. And Payson takes Phoebe home and begs her parents to keep her, and they're like, we can literally not afford that right now. And Payson's really upset. And Lauren and Max have their basketball game. And
my name is Trey. I have a basketball game tomorrow. Well, I'm a point guard. I got shoe game.
It's like in this, it's just like super intense, like mood lighting, hot, steamy scene, and it's all sweaty. Look, I'm no therapist. But I don't know why Lauren always goes after guys who just like don't want her. She has this like need to convince them to like her. You know, she did the same thing with Carter. It's like she pushes and pushes and pushes until they give in kind of thing. I don't know what that's all about. Someone smarter than me can probably pinpoint what that is, but it's just I don't know. It's just not a good look, girl. Like, we need to have some self-respect. It's giving more like I have to compete, I have to win, like that kind of thing. It's almost like she's just so insecure and thinks that people don't love her that she has to prove to herself that she can make them love her. I don't know. So Kelly and Tessa come in to do some late night training since Austin and Kaylee are doing it as well, and they like notice that Kaylee's only been doing vaults, so Kelly tells her mom that they don't have to worry about her because there's no way she's gonna be ready on all 4 events. And then it is competition day, and they're all doing their routines, and Sasha calls Kaylee up to do beam, and she's like, I'm actually not doing beam. And he's like, okay, what about bars? And she's like, so I'm not doing bars either. And he's like, well, what you're about to be doing is some explaining. She and Austin tell him about their plan, and Sasha said, I thought I said no surprises. And Austin says, well, it's not a surprise, it's a strategy. And so Sasha asks Kaylee, she's like, you agreed to this? And she says, yeah. And Sasha asks her why, and she says, I just asked myself that. And I thought to myself, if Sasha Beloff were in my position, what would he do? That's a pretty good response, Kaylee. You kind of ate that. Because what is he going to say to that? So she does her fancy, super high DOD vault and sticks the landing. And should have seen Kelly Parker's face. She was like, and Sasha announces later who made the team, and it's Kaylee Cruz. Woo! And her and Austin share a run and jump hug, and it's all cutesy. And later that night, Kim and Mark are talking and about the dog and about what happened to them and how they used to have faith that they would make it through these hard times and they weren't so scared. And they decide to keep the dog because Mark kind of fell in love with it as well. And outside the Rock that afternoon after practice, Kelly's mom is raging at her and being a bitch. Like, no wonder Kelly turned out the way she is. Like, her mom's like, we need to get this girl out of here, and tells Kelly to find her proof that she has anorexia, and if that they don't, then she'll have to drop her as her client. And Kelly's like, Mom, what? And Kaylee comes out and sees the end of this interaction and watches her mom like drive away in her huge RV. And obviously Kaylee's a kind person, so she feels bad for her and checks on her. And Kelly like is crying and kind of opens up to her and invites her over to her house to like cool off and give her just some space to work through her emotions and whatnot. And Max goes over to Payson's house, and Payson tells him that her parents are letting her keep the dog, and he tells her that he has a date with Lauren. And it gets kind of awkward, and Payson's like, well, I mean, I did say we're just friends. I can't really be mad about this. And then they show Kelly over at Kaylee's house, and Kelly's talking about how she doesn't really have any friends because her mom says they just get in the way. And Kaylee's like, I don't think I could have won nationals without my friends. She invites her to stay for dinner and goes to tell her mom to set another plate. And while she's gone, Kelly's like just kind of like looking around Kaylee's room, and she's not like trying to snoop or find anything, but she stumbles across Kaylee's journal, and she opens up and sees where she wrote that she has anorexia. So she puts it in her bag. And that is the end of episode 18. Next, moving on to episode 19, the world team is doing press at the Rock, taking photos, and Kelly's mom is trying to get Kelly in the front, but they tell Kaylee to get in the front because she's a national champion. Lauren is talking during it and says, Sasha thinks I can get gold on beam. Haven't you noticed how much special attention he's been giving me? And Kelly Parker says, no, but I do remember how much his special attention did for Payson. Oh, she's ice cold. Kelly's mom is talking to her later and is pissed because a sponsor chose to go with Kaylee instead of her, so she's pushing Kelly to get proof of the anorexia. Marcus comes in and returns the disc of the training cam footage to Kim and says it was anonymously sent to the NGO. And Summer and Kim say that if they ever find out who sent it, they will rip their heart out. Sasha tells Lauren to be less sassy and flirty in her beam routine to show that she's a serious gymnast, because, you know, she loves to add all that pizzazz to her routines. And, you know, they still have the press there, and they're all doing like little interviews. A lot of them are in Spanish or I guess it's Portuguese, because the Worlds is in Rio in Brazil. Kaylee answers a question from a reporter and mentions Kelly Parker's name, and Kelly overhears it, so she goes up to Marcus and she's like, what did Kaylee just say? Because it was in Portuguese. And she says, and he tells her that Kaylee said that Kelly should be team captain because she has the most experience and she's the only one who's been to Worlds before and such. And Kelly's like, why would she say that? And Marcus is like, because she's a class act. And Kelly's like kind of shook. So the sponsor that Kaylee got instead of Kelly, it was like for this bar, like granola bar kind of thing, like a protein bar. It's called Girl Bar with 3 R's. Okay. So they kind of pitch it to her, and as, you know, like a healthy bar, like she's the girl who would never starve herself to get the results she wants. So when she wants energy, she chooses to eat a girl bar. And Kaylee is very uncomfortable with this marketing since, you know, she's kind of lying to everyone about having an eating disorder and just feels very phony and against her recovery to lie to everyone and pretend that she's this person when she's not. So she talks to her dad about it, and he's like, it's a lot of money. It's like $500,000, but we can say no to this deal if it's not, fit with your ideals right now. Later, they show Kelly and her mom meeting with Ellen Beals and to talk about Kaylee's anorexia and like plant seeds in her head and such. And Ellen says since she was burned by the whole kissing scandal, she's now under an ethics like investigation, and without irrefutable proof of her anorexia, like there's nothing she can do. They're the Spruce Juice, and Kaylee and Austin are talking, and she's telling him about the sponsor and kind of asks for his advice, and he's like, look, just you don't have to take it, like it's fine. They have a little moment, and then Payson and Max show up and join them, and Payson talks about how her parents aren't coming to Rio because they can't afford it. And she goes on about how, like, if only her parents had taken sponsorship money back before Payson had broken her back, they wouldn't be in this position, because now no one is knocking at the door. And Katie's like, well, they should be. And so they get the idea to pitch to the girl bar people to sponsor Payson instead. And Payson's like, my parents are never going to go for it because they don't want to sacrifice the college scholarship eligibility, but they come up with a plan for Payson to convince her parents, and that the others will convince the healthy bar people. So the next day of practice, Max is taking pictures of Payson for, the pitch that they're going to do or whatever, and Lauren gets jealous because she doesn't know about this whole plan, and it's kind of a secret, and they're keeping her in the dark. And Kaylee and Kelly have a conversation about friendship and how Kelly needs to open up and just take the first step, and her friends will meet her halfway. So she invites them to the Tanners World send-off party that they're having at Lauren's house later for like everybody and except Kelly Parker and her mom, who were not invited. And then they show Max giving a speech to the girl bar people about Payson, and it's really cute, and he goes on and Payson's like really flattered, and they end up offering Payson $25,000 now, and if she medals at Worlds, she'll get $250,000. And she tells her parents about this, begs for her parents to take the money, and they say that they'll think about it. And then they show Summer and Sasha having kind of a tense conversation, and he brings up how she ran back to Steve Tanner because she almost betrayed her vow of chastity, and how she's probably just angry at him because she might have felt rejected for him respecting her values. She says he might respect her values, but he does not share them, and that she knew that he would never change. So, and he's like, oh, and Steve Tanner has changed? And Summer says yes. And Sasha says the biggest mistake women make, which, bold statement, Sasha. I was with you until just now. The biggest mistake women make is believing their love can change a man, though he seriously doubts she loves Steve. You might have clicked there, Sasha, honestly. You lost me the first half, but you got me back in the second half. And she's like, I'm where God wants me to be. And Sasha says, no, you're where you feel safe. And he gets real close to her face, and it looks like they're about to kiss. And they almost do, but she says, please, like begs him to like not do that because she can't stop herself. Only he can, I guess. So he backs off. And then we're in the RV in Mana Momster's office. Kelly and her mom are talking. Kelly's mom has Lauren level manipulation skills. So before Kelly, she got ready for the party. She's about to go. And her mom's like, don't you think for a second that just because Kaylee invited you to this party that she's your friend? And she goes on about how her father left her because she was too busy making Kelly's dreams come true, and that she gave up her life for her and her happiness, and she has nothing to show for it. Kelly gets like upset, obviously, because that's an awful thing for your mom to say to you, and pulls out the journal and shows it to her mom, and her mom just immediately flips a switch and turns around and tells her how proud she is of her and how pretty she is and whatnot, and tells her to take the journal to the party and give it to Ellen Beals because they invited the entire NGO to the party, so And Ellen Beals told them earlier that she was going to be there. So the party begins and everyone's arriving and all dressed up. And Austin and Kaylee have a cute little moment of intense eye contact. And they head to the dance floor. Lauren pulls Max up into her garage attic and candles everywhere. And she like immediately starts undressing him and kissing him and gets on top of him. But he stops her before they go further, and he says he's not ready to have sex with her. And she asks if it's because of Payson and goes off about how Payson can't give him what he needs and whatnot. And then Steve suggests to Summer that they get married while they're in Rio because while they're there for Worlds, you know, the city's famous for Christ the Redeemer, statue and everything, and it'd be perfect for them. Summer agrees. Hesitantly, you can see. And because I think Sasha's words are still ringing around in her head. So Kim and Mark are discussing at the party taking the endorsement and that they don't like the idea of exploiting their kids. And Alex Cruz comes up and talks to them about it and is like, you know, you guys made the gamble when you decided to enter Payson into this sport, and if you're not going to gamble now, like, what was it all for? I mean, you need to believe in your kid's ability to medal. They then show Austin and Kaylee dancing, and he says, I have a confession to make, and she like gets nervous because I don't know what she thinks he's going to say, but I mean, that is a scary statement. She's like, okay, go ahead. And he says, I'm dying to kiss you right now. Okay, Austin. And he's like, I know that we can't, because, you know, they aren't allowed to date or whatever, I guess. And she's like, I want to kiss you too, whatever. And Ellen Beals shows up to the party, and Lauren panics and talks to her dad and is like, what is she doing here? Ellen talks to Steve and makes an ominous threat about reminding everyone that she may be down, but she's not out. And Kim and Mark tell Payson that they decided that they are going to take the endorsement. So she pulls Max aside and tells him and surprises him, and they get really excited and hug, and Payson's all happy, and she blurts out that she loves him and that she always thought that having a boyfriend would mess up her gymnastics, but that he's just made everything better instead. And his face like kind of drops, and Payson freaks and backtracks and apologizes for making a fool of herself, and he's like, no, I'm just a little overwhelmed. And she asks him to forget that it ever happened and walks away. And then Ellen talks to Lauren as well about the training camp footage, and she's like, I won't out you because all I want for the U.S. to medal at the Olympics, and for right now they need you to do that, but I will find a way to return the favor for burning me. And then Steve makes a speech, you know, welcoming everybody and talks about Worlds and announces to everyone that he and Summer have decided that they will be getting married in Rio. And Lauren joins in and tells everyone that Summer has decided that she's going to legally adopt her as well. And the look on Ellen's face, I fear she's hatched a plan. They then show Kelly like kind of walking towards Ellen Beals, but she like swerves at the last minute and goes to Kaylee and pulls her aside and shows her the journal and says, look, I stole this from you. I'm sorry. I was going to give it to Ellen Beals to expose your anorexia, but I decided as a sign of goodwill that I'm giving it back to you, and I didn't do that. And Kaylee freaks out and gets so pissed at her, goes off, is an invasion of privacy and all this stuff, and is like really mean. And look, obviously Kelly shouldn't have taken the journal. By seeing how awful her mother is and how much pressure she puts on her and how manipulative she is, you can see why she felt the need to take it. And honestly, it was very brave of her to go against her mother and not give it to Ellen. But I guess, Kaylee doesn't know all that. So, you can understand why she's upset. So, Kaylee goes on to say that she will never trust her and calls her a horrible human being. Which is kind of harsh. I mean, it is an insane invasion of privacy. They then show Max. Where's Max? Max, and he's in a room alone, just like drinking out of a handle of liquor, getting drunk off his ass. And Austin comes in and finds him, and Max is like, 2 girls threw themselves at me tonight, and I couldn't say yes to either one of them. And Austin helps him up and is like, we need to get you out of here. And when he's helping him up, Max actually kisses him. And Austin's like, the was that, man? And Max is like, I just wanted to. And Austin's like, so you're gay? And Max is like, no, I like girls too. I'm bi. And Max is like, no one understands me. And how could I tell Payson that I like guys too? I mean, a girl like that is bound to be freaked out by that. And Austin's like, you have to tell her if you want her, but not tonight because you're so drunk. Like, let's get you out of here. So Ellen then makes her move and drops hints to Summer that Steve had something to do with the video leak. So she confronts him again one more time about it and is like, you have to tell me right now. And in the middle of it, Lauren comes up and says that she did it and says that her dad didn't know until way later and that she can still marry him. And Summer is disgusted and says that she doesn't want anything to do with either of them ever again. And Lauren just like completely crashes out and is crying, and Max shows up and Lauren begs her to leave with him, so they like go for a drive. And Lauren's driving obviously because Max is drunk, and she's crying, and Max is like, why are you so upset? And she starts like crazy talking to herself, like she's saying like, she'll forgive me, she didn't mean it, she loves me. And Max kind of looks at her for a second, and I just know his bi-ass was like, wait, is she gay too? And he's like, who are we talking about? And she's like, my mother. Like, girl, she's not your mom. Hate to tell you, but. And Max says, I thought your mother was dead. And Lauren is like, what? And like runs a stop sign, and they get nailed by a car. And I'm going to insert Max's reaction to, like, he like looks over and sees the headlights coming. He's like, whoa! And I think one more take they might have had it, because this is just that reaction is just so bad. Like, I don't know, I think they could have done better than that. But anyways, that is how episode 19 ends. Now moving on to the last episode of season 2, episode 20. It is time for Worlds. The episode opens with Summer showing up at the hospital, and they ask if, and a doctor or nurse asks her if she's Lauren's mother, and the doctor keeps referring to Lauren as her daughter, and they take her back there. And Lauren is fine. She's just cut and bruised up, but Max has a concussion and a fractured collarbone, so he will not be able to compete at Worlds. And Summer asks Lauren, she's like, why did you tell them I'm your mother? And she's like, I wanted you to come. So Sasha shows up and is pissed that she got in a car accident, and Summer tells Lauren that she has to tell Sasha who sent her the video before Worlds is over. That Lauren has to tell him, or else she's going to. So Kaylee and Payson show up at the hospital, and Austin shows up too, and they're both like Spider-Man meme, like, what are you guys doing here? They're like, Lauren was in a car accident, and Austin was like, so was Max. And Lauren comes out and was like, yeah, we were together. Oh, and Payson's like, oh, why were you together? And Austin like gets pissed at her because his bestie's gonna miss Worlds now, and is like, great job, Lauren. And then a nurse comes out and tells them that Max is sedated, but she thinks he's asking for the girl he was brought in with. And Lauren was like, oh, that's me. So she goes back with them. And Payson is upset because she thinks Max left the party to go have sex with Lauren, and that's why they were together. And then Kelly Parker also shows up, and Kaylee is nasty to her, and she's like, I'm just here to check on my teammate. Like, isn't that what teammates are supposed to do? And Kaylee's like, how would you know? And it's like, she's just very rude to her. And Payson's like, whoa, I thought you said we should give her a chance. And Kelly tries to apologize again about the journal and says she wants to be a friend and she wants to be part of the team. But Kaylee is not having it. And then Lauren goes in to visit Max, and he's very out of it. And he's like, says Payson's name, and Lauren's like, oh. So the next morning, everyone's getting ready to go to Worlds. Marcus shows up at Kaylee's house, and he says he wants to check on the new World Team captain, and he just reminds her to keep her story straight with the press about the ACL tear, and he says they have to lie because her scores will go down, and so will the rest of her team's scores, because she'll be seen as weak, and since he's captain, it'll reflect on the other teammates. So Kaylee's like, I understand. So all the teams arrive in Rio, and they're making their way into hotel, I guess. Sasha tells them to march up there like warriors and ignore the press, but they all end up talking to the press. All of them stop and talk, except for Payson. And Marcus pulls Kaylee over to talk to someone, and she's like a deer in the headlights, like answers these questions about her ACL like a noob. And Marcus is like, okay, no more talking to the press for you. Him and Mark are in the hotel lobby, just hanging out, waiting for their room to be ready, and a representative from Stanford University comes up to them and talks to them about potential scholarships for Payson, and they start to question if they made the right decision with taking the scholarship, or taking the endorsement money and forfeiting an NCAA scholarship. And I'm sorry, but what college is coming all the way to Worlds and seeking you out, and because they're like, we came all this way just for Payson? Like, what? That doesn't make sense. I don't know, maybe it does. I don't know, that just seems kind of crazy, right? Kaylee is then later walking through like the pool area and she sees Austin in the pool with there's like reporters and media people like asking him questions and taking pictures and videos of him, and he's wearing sunglasses because he's Mr. Cobalt, which is like the sunglasses brand he is endorsed by. And so he has this Mr. Cobalt alter ego that is like the bad boy, party boy kind of guy. And so he's giving that in the pool, and he's like surrounded by girls in bikinis. And the reporters ask him if he has a girlfriend, and he says, if I did, could I do this? And then he kisses the two girls that are beside him. And Kaylee sees all of this and she stomps off, and Austin's like, oh, I didn't know she was there. And so he gets out of the pool and follows her, and he's like, I'm sorry, but it's just an act and I care about you. And she's like, well, it's pathetic. And he says, well, I need the money. And she says, well, if that's what it takes, then I'd rather be poor. And he goes, says the rich girl. He's like, look, I'm not judging you, but you're letting the whole world think that you have an ACL tear. And he's like, I'm not the only one faking. Which, you know, he's kind of right, but it is two very different things, I feel. And he's basically like, we got to do what we got to do, and walks off. Now it is time for the first day of the qualifying rounds to make it to the finals. So they have one day where half the teams compete, and then the next day the other half compete, and the top 4 teams from each day go to the world finals. So the US is competing on the first day, and so is Russia, and then China with Genji Cho is competing the next day. So the girls are all doing very shitty with their routines because they all have other things on their minds. You know, Lauren's got the training video, and Summer, Payson's got Max, and then Kaylee and her lies are catching up with her, and she's got the Kelly party feud. So they all just kind of mess up their routines. And then Kim and Mark are in the audience kind of blaming themselves because they think that Payson is messing up because all the pressure that the sponsorship put on her. And they're in the last rotation, and the U.S. is in 6th place. And Sasha tells the girls to cheer for Kelly because it's up to her. It's only hope they have left is her bars routine because that's what's next. And he tells, because Kaylee's like gossiping because, you know, she's mad at Kelly. And Sasha tells her to stop acting like a bloody prom queen and start acting like a team captain. So she sucks it up, and they all like clap and cheer Kelly on, and they show Kelly, and she smiles, and she's like, okay, I got this. She does her routine, and she does great and kills it. Somehow it allows them to make it into 4th place, pushing them on to the finals. And afterwards, Sasha is pissed, and he puts all the girls in a hotel room and tells them that they are not allowed to leave until they work out what happened and work together as a team. And they all start bickering, and Kaylee tells the girls about Kelly taking her journal, and Payson and Lauren start arguing about Max, and it's this whole big mess of all of them talking over each other. And they'll cut and come back and show that time has passed, and the girls finally start getting somewhere. And Payson apologizes for becoming an airhead, like all of you 3. by letting a boy get to my head. And then her and Lauren argue more. And Kelly's like, well, y'all quit. I used to admire you guys because I thought you were real friends and a real team. And now watching you guys come for each other's throats, I realize you're bigger fakes than I am. This kind of like snaps them out of it because they're like, oh, Kelly Parker thinks we're bad. That is bad. And Payson talks about her parents, and Kelly says she wishes she had parents who cared like that because her mom sold her eligibility out when she was 9. And Lauren tells Payson what actually happened at the hospital with Max calling out her name. Kaylee tells the girls, that while they're all coming clean, she can't because the NGO doesn't want her to talk about it, but it would really help if she could just be honest. And they tell her that they have her back no matter what she decides to do. Kaylee then holds a little press conference later with her team all up there with her and tells the truth to everybody about her anorexia and how she's a better gymnast after going through this. And Marcus is in the back and tells the Sasha, after this, they're done. And Sasha just kind of smirks because he knows that the girls are ready for the finals after this. And that is when Marcus loses me. That moment. Like, again, he was worried about them and their scores, but I mean, you'll see. We'll show you, Marcus. So now it is time for finals day. And the girls are locked in, they have a little montage of them all getting ready, and they're all feeling a lot better. And Lauren talks to Sasha before her beam routine, and she tells him about how she was the one who sent the video because she was afraid that he was going to take Summer away from her, and that she is so sorry. And he walks away and comes back and tells her that he forgives her, and also tells her that she can add her sass back to her routine, and that this will be a new start for them, and he knows that she has the capacity to be a better person than she thinks. So she kills her beam routine, and the US move into 4th place. Payson does her vault, and she ends up hurting her ankle when she lands, but she feels pressure to do the second vault because, she has to medal in order to get the money from the sponsors who are in the crowd, and they're kind of like, ooh. So Kaylee talks to Payson and tells her that she owns the vault today and she needs to go all out since, that was supposed to be Kaylee's only apparatus. So she does her vault and sticks the landing on one foot, and everyone goes crazy and cheers, and it ends up moving US to 2nd place behind China. And Sasha tells Kelly that he's gonna have her do her floor routine instead of Payson since she's hurt. And Kelly's like, no, you should choose Kaylee because I've been off all day and she's been on fire. And this whole routine is so awesome. The vibes are so good. There's a kid, a little girl waving to Kaylee in the crowd with a sign, and Kaylee waves back, and she does her routine. Honestly, the whole last 5 minutes of this episode, chef's kiss. The music is good. It's awesome. It's so heartwarming. And so Kaylee ends up killing her floor routine, and the whole crowd goes crazy, and they pan to Marcus, and he's smiling and okay, and looks like he's eating his words from earlier. And I'm sure you guys wouldn't be able to guess, but the US team does end up winning the gold. They win by 0.025 points, and China gets silver and Russia gets bronze. And then they show a little compilation of all their celebrations afterwards, and all the parents are crying, and it's just my little heart. They show Summer and Lauren having a little reconciliation moment because Summer's I'm proud of you, and Max shows up and tells Payson that he loves her too, and he kind of tries to tell her about him being bi. I don't know why he would choose that moment. He starts to be and there's something else. She's stop talking, I don't care, and kisses him. And then Austin comes up and hugs Kaylee, and then some reporters are taking pictures and whoa, Mr. Cobalt doesn't have a girlfriend, does he? And he's yes, I do, if she'll have me, and then kisses her in front of reporters. So good job, Austin. So I guess they're dating now. And then Lauren pulls her away and takes her and Payson out to, where they held the match, and they kind of just have a a moment there looking up at the scoreboard showing that they got gold, and the music is really nice, and they just kind of bask in their greatness and how far they've come for a second. And that is how episode 20, the last episode of season 2, ends. Honestly, I think that's the best episode of the whole show, if I'm being honest. So if you watch any of the episodes, I recommend watching that one. And that is season 2 all completed. I'll probably do season 3. I don't love that season because it's like a whole different show. Like, there's all these new characters in a different place, and I think it's only 8 episodes because the show got canceled and they didn't want to pay for a whole season, I guess. And Emily is never seen again. So I don't know what happened to that actress, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. I don't know how long this is. I hope it's shorter than my last one for editing purposes. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and bye.